Welcome to the Flowering Daydream podcast, where daydreams become reality. I'm your host, Charlene Windis. Today, we are going to be talking about our energy field, our energetic atmosphere, our energy hygiene, and why it might be important to understand how your energy field operates and what is in your energetic atmosphere, and what you might be able to do to tend to your inner garden, to your own energy. We wash our clothes and we brush our teeth and we do all these things in the practical realm of our lives. But we also have this entire energy space, this part of ourselves that we can feel, but not necessarily always see. And a part of us that often gets neglected, especially in the Western culture, which I don't even know what to call that anymore. It's sort of like not even a culture. It's just a mindset. And that mindset has completely disconnected us. Anyone who's in the Western mindset has been disconnected in some shape or form due to the external circumstances that are going on around us, due to the way that we live our lives, due to the lack of environmental connection and earth connection, due to the lack of spiritual practices, and due to the lack of our connection to our ancestors, and due to colonization, and due to capitalism, and due to so many other things that have gotten in the way and that have really blocked us from our own sense of empowerment and our own sense of self and our connection to our own intuition and the ability to be connected energetically and spiritually in a very empowering way. That's a whole nother episode, and I'll be having lots of episodes about that. Today, I want to stay focused on the energetic atmosphere and energy hygiene, but I do want to mention that those things are largely responsible and largely a part of why many of us don't have an energy hygiene practice and are actually not even aware that we have an energy field. Let's dive in to this episode. I hope you enjoy listening to this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it and sharing it with you. First thing that we need to identify and recognize is that we are made of energy and that everything is made of energy. Everything has an energy field, and this energy field in and around our bodies and in and around animals and in and around trees and everything on the earth is palpable, is movable, is pliable, is expandable and contractible, and it's constantly affecting the way that we feel physically and mentally and emotionally. And your energy field is sort of the first place that information comes in, the first place that we start to feel something, because our energy field expands in and around our body, anywhere from 5 to 20 feet, and give or take, depending on what's going on. And it's constantly shifting and shaping and moving, depending on what we're doing. So if we're in a class and we're being really focused, then, that part of our intellectual part of our energy field is going to be really expanded. If we're meditating or doing some shamanic journey work or something of that nature, something spiritual, then the top of our energy field, the top of our head and crown is going to be really expanded. If we're doing grounding work or kundalini work or, any kind of energetic work that has to do with the lower half of our energy field, then we're going to be really expanded in that space. If we're focusing on our physical senses, then we're more embodied, and sort of all of our parts of our energy field can be activated. And it can be activated with those other things that I mentioned too, but these are just sort of generalizations about how the energy field might move and flow. And so just recognizing that there is no such thing as perfection. So just completely get that out of your mind. When I do energy readings, on clients and students, often the first response on a client side might be that that there might be something wrong with them, or that they're not doing something right, or, whatever the reasoning may be. And that's not the case. There is a responsibility that we each have for each of our own energy, but that is not why energy is imbalanced. It's generally just a lack of awareness and not even really realizing the power that we have and the internal access that we have to the way that our energy field operates. And also, depending on what's going on in our life and our career and our relationships and our family and just all of that changes the way that our energy field might be operating. So one week it could look one way and another week it could look another way or feel another way. And some things are more historical and have longevity in the energy field. And so some of those centers might be affected for a very long time, in which case it's not sort of an easy fix of having just an awareness of it. So this can get really in depth, especially for practitioners. So you have this breathing energy field that's in and around your body. And what goes on in our energy fields that we maybe can't see affects us in the physical realm. So whatever happens in the spiritual and energetic realm affects us in the physical realm. So this is why it's even more important that we're aware of what is going on in our energetic atmosphere. It's sort of like the same way that we tend to our house. You know, if you vacuum and you upkeep your house and you do the repairs and tend to your physical space, that does directly affect how you feel in the space. Well, the same thing happens with the inside of our energy field. And the way that you connect to your energy field or the way that you view your energy field is going to be really different. There are different ways to look at the energy field all over the world in different cultures and different traditions, and different lineages have different ways of looking at the field. Like in the Celtic spirituality, we have the three cauldrons, which are energy centers in the body that govern the heart and the spirit and the physical realm. And then in Eastern spirituality, we have the chakras, the 7 energy centers in the body that are the main centers. And in Chinese medicine, we have the meridians, which are lines of energy that run throughout the body. And then there's also the luminous field and so many other ways to look at the field. How you connect to that and how you resonate with that is up to you. But overall, what's solid and what we can rely on is that we have energy centers running throughout our whole body, and that these energy centers store and transmit and emit and hold and send out energy all the time. For example, each of our organs in our body has its own energy, and it governs emotional aspects of ourselves. And so if you have, reoccurring bladder infections or, an issue with your lungs or your liver, there are practical things that might be causing that. And then there's also the energetic and the spiritual. So it's both. And so when we actually just sit and talk to our own organs, just put our hand over the area that's inflamed in some way and start to ask questions and find out, hey, what's going on in here? What do you need? What am I sensing? And really begin to empower yourself with your own intuition. You can start to have this dialogue and this deeper understanding of what's going on in your body. That conversation isn't necessarily going to solve an issue, but it will give you some insight into the energetic and the spiritual that you can then marry with the practical and the physical. So it's both. It's not either or. So once you understand your energy field, and really connect to the fact that there are these energy centers in the body, and start having some conversations with the various parts of yourself and recognizing that your energy is expanding and contracting, and really begin to investigate, where does your energy begin and where does it end? Like, how far do you feel that your energy is out, above you, below you, behind you, in front of you? Where do you feel your energy when it touches another person's energy? Paying attention to really start to understand how your energy field is working and when you're in contact with other energy. And there's all kinds of energy that we can't see. Well, some of us can see if you have your clairvoyant sight activated or you're a seer or a psychic, all of those abilities can be developed. And also some of us have those abilities a bit stronger when we're already born into this life based on previous lifetimes. So if you're able to see energy, then you're able to really even understand it more, but you can also feel it. Some people know energy, feel energy, hear energy, smell energy. We talked about the clairsenses in a previous episode I did on clairvoyance. And so once you understand the faculties that you have in your intuition, then you're really able to begin to investigate your energy field. But simply just sitting with yourself and paying attention is a really great place to start, and just start noticing how your energy engages with other energy and where you feel your energy and what kind of sense do you have that's already naturally there for you. Is it a feeling? Is it a sense? Is it sight? Is it knowing, just an inner knowing? Really investigating that within yourself. And the reason why this is so important in learning more about your own energy field is because we pick up other energy all the time. And some of us are more absorbent and spongy than others. But regardless of where we're at on the absorbent spectrum, we need to cleanse our energy field. We need to clear our field. And so what are we actually clearing? So let me break down like some of the things that we would be cleansing and clearing, and some of the things that you can do on your own, and some of the things that you might need the support of another skilled practitioner. So what we're clearing every day is just our own stuff first and foremost. So we have stagnant feelings and thoughts that maybe we're done with, but they're still kind of imprinting in our energy field and ruminating and kind of affecting us or making us sluggish or fatigued or tired, but they're ready to go. We're kind of done, overthinking something over and over and over. That energy is then ready to be released, but it needs help being released. And so just as you would go to the bathroom physically, you also need to release these energy imprints from your day. So these are just our thoughts and our feelings from the day that we might be done with. Then we have environmental energy and spatial energy. And this is energy that we pick up. There's energy everywhere. There's people leave energy all over the place. If someone just had a fight recently and you walk through that energy, it can glom onto you. It can attract and hang on to you if you're not, really grounded and really protected and really aware of what's going on. And all of those things can help you. But even when you have all of those things engaged, we're human and we still pick up energy. And so it's just part of energy hygiene to be aware of that. And then there's also collective energy bubbles and projections that can happen that are energetic that come into our field. So, if you enter into a collective energy bubble, it can be really hard to pull yourself out of that. And if you're able to successfully pull yourself out of it, then you have all this heavy energy that needs to be released. And this is, a very powerful energy because it's a collective energy. So for an example, there are collective energy fields in politics, right? There's collective energy fields in religion. There's collective energy fields in groups that gather and focus on something together. And so if you're aware of that, then you're able to enter in and out of these collective energy bubbles. If you're aware of that, then you're able to go in and out of these collective energy fields and be able to gather all of your own energy and extract that back so that you don't lose any of that energy and also not take any energy from that energetic bubble. And so then we have the projections energy. So if someone has an opinion of you or thinks a certain thing of you, then that energy can be sent out at you, kind of like an energy dart. It happens on the freeway all the time, or road rage, or people getting mad that someone's cutting you off and you swear at someone. You're sending energy out, and then it does affect the person's energy field. Even if you don't even know what they look like and you've never seen them, it's the energy that you sent out specifically, intentionally and specifically. And that does affect your field. Projections can come from the way that our family sees us or wants to see us, or friends. Projections can come from anywhere. And so that is also an energy that we can kind of clear and also protect from ultimately, but really just clear out at the end of every day, because again, this is just sort of part of human life. So that's all the stuff that we're clearing daily, that we can clear daily and weekly so that we can feel better, so that we can sleep better, and that we can also then learn to discern between our own energy and other people's energy, between our own energy and spatial and environmental energy, and just kind of understand that and begin to really learn about that more about ourselves so that we can feel better day to day. Then we go into sort of some of the higher level energy clearing. And this is my personal opinion. And I personally think at this point that you need some sort of support to do this clearing work. And the reason for that is you could kind of get lost in this by yourself. You could kind of drown in the energy. You could accidentally make it worse in a way. You could be blinded because you have emotional involvement in whatever it is that you're trying to work on. And so I think there's a lot of layers here that need some kind of support. And so what we can clear through ceremonies and through ritual and through having someone else hold space for us that knows what's going on and understands how to do this work would be ancestral clearing, familial clearing, curses, attachments, ghosts, entities, all of that work. If there is something that's going on that's affecting you and it's affecting you a lot in a way that you don't like, then that would be something that would require something with more support to really hold space for that kind of clearing work. And so the other aspect to cleansing and clearing an energy field and having sovereignty over your energetic atmosphere is also protecting and having some sense of energetic protection. And when I originally, started learning about all of this as an energy healing practitioner, I kind of had the mindset that, I'm protected anyway. I don't need to protect myself. Like, I should be naturally protected. And that only worked for so long. And then I started developing migraines and all these physical health issues as I was working on other people. And as a practitioner, I very quickly learned that's not enough. There has to be rituals. There has to be practices. There has to be intention. There has to be awareness around the fact that we have all these layers of energy working kind of all the time. And protection is really important, especially when you're empathic or working in the spiritual and energetic field. But I think it's important every day for everyone. It just becomes more and more deeply needed when you're actually working in the fields of others. And so I think in terms of really protecting ourselves, intention is the first thing that I would talk about with this. And the intention is that we want to be protected from anything that is not, our highest good. We don't want to guard and protect from everything because then we can't receive the love and abundance and all of the great things that we want to have come into our lives. But we also have to realize that when we say the highest good, we are protecting from that. We are protecting from the highest good. And so that means if a lesson or a growth opportunity comes along that's going to be challenging and hard, and you might not like it at all, that could be a highest good thing that needs to come in as part of whatever is going on in your soul plan and your growth opportunities and, whatever that might be. And being a human, these things are going to happen. There's just no way around avoiding the grief or the sadness or the experiences that can bring that energy into our field more strongly so that we can grow and learn from that. That's not avoidable. And so when we say, I want to be protected from anything that's not the highest good, then that allows us to actually have a full spectrum life instead of just blocking everything, which would affect your field in a negative way as well. And you would notice. And so, just having the intention that, hey, I don't want anything that I don't need. If it's not something that I need that's really important to my growth and to my life and to my expansion and to my transformation, then I don't want it. I don't need all that extra stuff. And so it's really just holding that space for yourself is like the first thing that I would recommend. The second thing is spiritually anchoring somewhere for that energetic and spiritual support. And that's how we access filling up our field, filling up our atmosphere with the things that we want our energy atmosphere to feel like. And so if we just do it all by ourselves every day and we're just holding that space for ourselves, then we're going to get tired and you're going to get burnt out. And so you hold the intention and you have that action there, but then you source support spiritually and energetically. And this is going to be different again for anyone based on what their spiritual belief system is, where they are spiritually anchoring, what their already existing practices are, and what resonates. If you don't have any of that going on, then I would begin that exploration process, because if you are aware that you have an energy field, and you're aware of energy, then that should open the door to, okay, what does all of that mean? And where does this come from and why? And sort of put you on the path for seeking that out. And what I've come to find out after 15 years of seeking and training, and again, this is my personal opinion, is that starting with your heritage, your DNA, where you're from, where you ultimately came from, where your ancestors came from, and really reconnecting to what happened back there. What are all my ancestors doing? And, for me, a lot of that was lost because I come from Norway and Sweden and Scotland and, sort of that whole area over there. And I've never even been there. I've never even talked to anyone who knows anything about that culture, that language, those regions, or their spiritual practices until very, very recently in my life. And I'm 41. And when I figured that out, it was like, oh my gosh, there are so many ancestral practices. But when I go really far back, I finally found Celtic mentorship and Norse mentorship, and I was able to reconnect to some of these very ancient spiritual practices. And that has been incredibly grounding, but also incredibly resonating. And that helps you anchor somewhere. So that would probably be one of the best places to start if you're not sure about what you believe in. Why don't you look into what 50,000 ancestors did before you and find out how they were connecting spiritually? And what you'll find in every culture across the world is that everyone was working with the environment, with the earth, with the seasons and the cycles and the moon, because there was no calendar and there was no electricity and there was no agriculture. I mean, everything revolved around the sun and night and day and seasons and cycles. And so you had to be connected to rituals and practices, and you had to be connected to your environment and the outside earth and everything around it. And when you figure that out, it's sort of like you return back to having an awareness with the earth and nature. And that's a great place to start in terms of figuring out your energy field and how you relate to the world. In addition to that, if there's anything along the way that's really resonated with you spiritually, maybe you did wake up in church and that's your thing. Maybe you found a practice when you traveled the world that really, really resonated in your heart and that's changed your life. Maybe that's it for you. It doesn't really matter what you choose, but I think, in my personal opinion, that all the pathways all across the world go to the same place essentially. We're all accessing that creation energy, that creation spirit, and we're all made of the same stuff. We're all made of stardust. And so when we look at what are you praying to, what are you practicing, what are you honoring, that matters on an ancestral level. I think it's both but I also think that spirit and energy will find you wherever it can access you. And so whatever you're around and however that happens for you is how it ignites for you. And you also have to be ready to wake up to this whole experience. And if you're not ready to wake up, you won't see it, you won't connect to it. And if you don't have your personal experiences with it, you're not just going to believe what someone else says or forces upon you or any of those things. Like for me, I was basically agnostic until I was 20, and I had some extraordinarily spiritual experiences that were just unexplainable in any other way. And that just set me off on this massive spiritual search, and there was no turning back for me because those experiences were so visceral and so real and so potent. And so I think if you're having your own experiences, that's how you really open up to this, but you have to be the one that's really seeking it and wanting that, and the timing has to be there and the readiness has to be there, because there's a lot of healing involved in this awareness process. And so once you've accessed where you're going to spiritually anchor, where are you going to source support from? What makes you feel good and peaceful and connected? And who can you talk to? How do you build that team of spiritual support? It can be through nature. It can be through your spirit guides. It can be through angels. It can be through ancestors. It can be through cultural reconnection, which I think is amazing. And it can be through so many ways. And that can be overwhelming for some. And so you just take it one day at a time and consider it a spiritual journey. And the minute you begin that process, more of that opens up to you. But realizing to protect your field, we can't do it by ourselves. We can, but we'll get really tired and we'll get really drained, and we can only put out so much energy. And so once you build that rapport, it's a relationship. It's not just making a connection and then asking for this. It becomes your lifestyle, and it becomes where you source that support. And so once you're able to source that support, you're asking every day for that spiritual support to be with you, to walk with you, and to protect you, and to guide you, and to illuminate things for you. And it becomes something that never leaves, something that can never be affected by the human experience. It's something that is unconditionally always there for you, no matter what. And that feels amazing. And you know what I think is just the most like ironic thing is that the more aware and the more sensitive and the more in tune that you are with energy and spirituality, the more you get affected by everything. The more trauma you have, the more active your nervous system is, the more all of this affects you. And so it's kind of like if you're not awake and you're kind of walking around asleep to the fact that you have these ancestors, and asleep to the fact that you have access to this energy, and asleep to the fact that you can be incredibly empowered through your intuition and through accessing your energy. If you're asleep to that, you're not as affected. I mean, you are, but you're not as affected. When you're awakened to that, it seems like a lot more work, and sometimes it can be exhausting. But if it becomes just part of your lifestyle and something that you enjoy that makes you feel better, then it just becomes a natural part of your life. And it also kind of forces you, when you wake up, to be in relationship with your environment and the people around you and the earth. And so you become responsible for your own energy. And I think that's a great thing that all of us could do. And you also become aware of the accessibility that you have to healing as well. And you also realize that not everything is your fault either, right? There's a lot going on. There are so many things going on that layer into life, that it's not just you. So I think an aspect of really protecting our energy field is fortifying our energy field. And it doesn't really matter how you do that. It's up to you and what works for you and what you feel resonates with you. But I think the more that we can fortify our energy field, the more protected we can be. And so there's so many ways that we can do that, but a couple of ways that I think work really well for me is to connect with my true self and connect with my higher self. And we're already connected to those aspects of ourself, but it's about deepening the connection and actually being aware that the energetic connection exists between the true self and the higher self. And the true self is the blueprint of the most healthiest version of yourself. And your higher self is the essence of your soul, or your soul essence, or however you want to look at it. But it's the area of the energy in your being that knows the soul plan, knows your birth plan, is in complete and total bliss state of that energy with source, with spirit. And we can get disconnected from these energy lines. We can do it willingly. We can do it unwillingly. If we have traumatic experiences, or if we have moments where we feel kind of in shock in some way, or if we lend our power or our power is taken from us, these are times when we can disconnect from our true self and our higher self. And so on Insight Timer, which is a free meditation app, I have a guided meditation for meeting your true self, and also a guided meditation to meet your higher self. And so that may work for you, that may not work for you, but it gives you an opportunity to kind of walk through a process where you can kind of visualize, imagine, or feel what those energy lines might feel like. And it gives you the instruction on how to connect to the true self and to the higher self. So head on over to Insight Timer, download the free app if you don't already have it, and go ahead and walk through those 2 meditations to help fortify your energy field. Another way to protect ourselves is to go through a physical practice with an intentional, energetic mindset about the practice. And so one of those practices that I've adapted is to work with protective oils on the back of my spine and the back of my neck. And so in Chinese medicine or acupuncture, there's something called the wind gate, which is in the back neck and upper shoulder area of the spine. And that's where it's believed that we get viruses or colds, or energy can come come in, or I'm sure an acupuncturist or a Chinese medicine specialist would explain it much, much better than I'm doing right now. But energetically, it's an entry point. It's looked at as an entry point where energy can come in. And when we're not paying attention, I think, to the backside of our energy field in general, I think that's where energy can kind of glom on or sneak in that maybe we don't want. And so really it's about just having an awareness of the backside of your energy field. But I find it helpful to put protective oils on that part of my upper neck and upper shoulder area of my spine with the intention that I'm asking the plant spirit to protect me that's in that oil. And so I did create a roll-on in my shop on charlenewindis.com. It's a protection oil that you can just roll on back there. But you can make your own, or you can work with just one kind of oil, or you can simply work with the intention of just sort of checking in on the backside of your energy field. And in addition to that, it's also believed that the backside of our energy field is where we receive energy, and the front side is where we give out energy. And if you think about the backside of your energy centers, like the chakras, for example, on the backside, they're like these windows, and the windows to the chakras where they receive energy can get dirty, just like the windows in our house. And so I think about really cleansing and clearing the backside of those windows, or of the backside of my energy field, when I'm doing my energetic cleansing practices, like using sound or working with herbal smoke and things like that. And then in addition to that, I also created an energy clearing bath bomb because I personally love taking baths, and I like to do a once a week ritual bath. And I had created this blend, and I actually really enjoyed making these with my kids. It was something that I did as a ritual every week to clear my own energy field. And then decided eventually my heart was really pulling me to share some of these things with my community and with the world. And so that's why I ended up starting my shop and putting them in my shop on my website. So you can find on my website an energy clearing bath bomb, which is a ritual bath bomb. It's not a regular bath bomb. It was created with the intent to work with it specifically in an in-depth ritual for energy clearing. And what you do with that bath bomb is you do all of your grooming and cleaning and everything in the shower first, so that when you take this bath, it's a ritual bath. It's not a cleansing bath for the physical body. It's for the energy body. And so once you've done that and you put the bomb in the water, then you can do other things like put on soft music, read poetry or a passage from a book that is inspirational. You can make tea. You can add flowers or herbs. You can light candles, whatever you want to do to create that atmosphere, that energy, to magnify that for you, you can do that. And then you want to soak for at least 15 to 20 minutes and stay in the bathtub when you let go of the drain. And just imagine as the water is leaving, that the water and the ingredients in the bath bomb are taking with it all energy that's no longer serving you to return and recycle back into the earth, into food, and into compost for the earth. And that's a really great ritual bathing that I've adapted for quite some time. And I always leave that ritual bath feeling so rejuvenated. And if you don't like to take a bath, or you don't have access to a bathtub, you can do a salt scrub in the shower with the same kind of intention, and imagining that the water is taking everything with the salts down the drain and returning it back into the earth. And so the other aspect to our energetic atmosphere, we have, just the understanding of our own energy field, and then we have the understanding of sort of shielding and protecting. The other thing is grounding. And this has been so hard for me. And I've had so many recommendations from spiritual teachers and energy healing practitioners. And there's only been a couple of times where something really resonated with me that someone might suggest, because I have had the most difficult time trying to get my energy grounded. And what I've come to realize is that I have a lot of trauma, and I have a lot going on in my nervous system. And even though I've worked on these things quite a bit, it really makes it very, very, very difficult to have total embodiment of your energy. And I think there's a lot of other things that cause a lack of grounding too. And there's just all these things that our physical body does that can cause us to pop out energetically of our body. And of course, yes, anytime there is a traumatic moment, the way that we cope with that is we kind of disassociate from that. We go into shock and we pop out of our body energetically so that we can handle it. and then we get back in, but then we can never get back fully in, or it seems like we can't really fully integrate back in without tending to that energy, that trauma, that shock, or that wound. And because we're not generally taught that in this Western society, we don't have the tools and we don't understand our own energy field. And so I think that this is like a major, major point and access to healing is figuring out, just having this grounding practice and understanding these things about ourselves. Simply even just having the understanding starts to shift your energy. And so one of the ways that we're grounding is through spiritually anchoring. So like we talked about in protection is like, where can we ask for that support and that help? For example, like a tree has its own energy and its own spirit. And a tree is one of the most beautiful examples of how to be grounded and how to be still, but also how to be flexible and move in the wind and reach for the stars and the sun and sort of expand and stretch. But a tree is probably one of the most beautiful and amazing energies that you can go to, that you have access to on the earth, and that you can talk to, and that you can ask for support. And you'll be pretty surprised. I mean, some of my most incredible conversations have been with trees. And so the other thing that we can do is practice practical. So the more spiritual and the more energetic we are, the less practical we might become. And it becomes more challenging because when you understand how to hang out in the ethers and how to find the bliss states and all of those things, like you can pretty much just stay there. Like who wants to go back to the difficult physical stuff? But that part of the human experience, and as I've learned very recently, you need both. You need both to fully embody this human experience. And so some of the things that have really worked for me, and you can try these things and see what works for you, is focusing on your physical senses. So when you're actually eating a meal, smelling it, looking at it, tasting it, really engaging with that physical aspect of it instead of just like scarfing it down, which I tend to do a lot as a busy mom. And my work schedule, I take, back-to-back clients. I only work 2 days a week. So I have to take, as many clients as I can in that time frame. And so the way that sort of my life structure is set up, it doesn't allow me to stop, slow down on those days and really engage in that way. And so I have to make a conscious effort to do that, especially on those days. On my off days, I'm able to do that a lot more, but it requires conscious attention to the physical senses when we're eating. The other thing is when we're showering or when we're getting dressed, anytime we're doing anything physical, we can really focus on the texture of our clothing, the way the water feels on our skin, and just really bringing those senses in. And I'm a really olfactory person. Like my smell is so strong and so heightened, and I can smell things a couple blocks away before I even get to them. And so for me, having hydrosols or essential oils that are based in like trees or things that feel grounded and rooted to me can be a big support and a big way that I can bring my energy and awareness back into the present moment. So I have, a bottle of oil that I carry around, and I don't even apply it. I just open it and smell it. I mean, it could last forever because you're not actually like applying it to the skin. But I have a diffuser, in my room at bedtime, things like that can be helpful. And then just making sure that you're drinking lots of water. That can be incredibly grounding. Trying to get adequate sleep and really just focusing on these physical senses. And then another thing that's been so helpful is just calling all of my energy home at the end of the day and just making sure that I'm all here, sort of gathering and collecting myself. Like, where am I? Am I up in my rec room or am I in my kitchen? Where's my energy? Is some of it still at work? Where have I focused energy today and where is it? So I'll just say something along the lines of like, I'm calling all my energy home to me now. That's mine, to my highest good, all my thoughts, all my feelings, all my energy. I ask it to return now. Something like that. So I'm gathering all of my energy and my power. I just really pay attention to the intention and the visualization that I'm filling my body back up like a balloon, like I'm filling myself with my own energy. Another thing that works really well for grounding is breath work. So just taking some deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth and really focusing on allowing that breath to calm and slow and soothe and also just gather your energy. I also really like exercise, dancing, or singing. Like all of those things can bring you into your body. I take that back. I don't prefer exercise. That's something I really have to motivate myself to do because I would much rather do something creative or record a podcast episode or garden. I just don't think about exercising per se. So if I do an activity like biking or hiking or walking or some kind of activity, that becomes more natural for me for exercise. But exercise does bring you into your body because it makes you focus on your physical aspects of yourself. And dancing is a great way to do that. That really brings you into the body. Singing does that. It brings your energy in as well. And somatic orienting has been one of my favorite things to do. I learned this from my somatic therapist that I had for a short time. And that's simply just pausing to look around the room at the details, the color of the carpet, the paint on the walls, the texture, looking at the light fixtures, and taking a few minutes to really hone in on your space. And when you do that, you'll be surprised. You'll see things that you have never seen in a place that you have always been. And that always just blows my mind. I'm like, how have I not seen that? Even on my walk, I'll do a mindful walk for grounding when I'm walking the dog. And I'll look around at things like the rock walls and the bushes and all the houses that we always walk by. And almost every time I do this mindful grounding walk, I notice a detail that has been there the entire time that I have literally never seen in 6 years of living in this area. And so that's kind of interesting too. Each time you practice the mindful walk, you notice something, you get more grounded, you get more embodied. And the other thing is to really connect to the tasks that you have throughout the day. If you're cleaning or vacuuming or doing the laundry, it's connecting to the smell, the colors, the textures, and really being mindful about being connected energetically to what you're doing and not just doing the task. That's a great way to get grounded. And I at the end of the day, sometimes if I'm not feeling grounded, I'll do a body scan. And I'll go through and just close my eyes and just start at my feet and just move my way up all the way to the head. And I'll just check in with my toes and my ankles and my knees and my thighs and my stomach and my chest and my arms and my fingers and my head. And I'll just kind of keep going up the body. And if I notice tension anywhere or any area needing extra attention, I'll just kind of breathe into that area. But I'm paying attention to my body, and our body talks. The body freaking talks. And so it's what's it saying? Is it thirsty? Is it hungry? Is it tired? Is there a part of you that needs extra attention? Is there a part of you that feels like crying? Is there a part of you that needs a hug? Is there a part of you that just feels exuberant joy and wants to dance for a while? What is it? And really not disconnecting from the fact that your body talks and it has needs. And this is a way that we can get grounded. And then, of course, any time that you spend outside is instant grounding. Go for a walk, get some fresh air, spend time outside, get your shoes and socks off, get your feet and the soles of your feet on the earth, lay on the earth and just ask the earth to hold you and to ground you and pull your spirit into your body. And just so you're just paying attention, give yourself a foot massage, take a bath, any of these things that you feel like you need or feel like resonate with you or sound good. Incorporate that into your grounding practice. That's all it takes. And somebody said something to me, for years I had spiritual teachers that said I wasn't grounded and I needed to get grounded. Well, no shit, right? Clearly I'm trying and I can't ground. And when I realized I'm so expansive spiritually and energetically. I'm super sensitive. I'm very empathic. I also have all this trauma. My nervous system is really on high alert all the time. All of these things, I finally found this one healer, and she said, well, maybe your grounding isn't the earth where the rocks are. Maybe your grounding is the sky. Maybe that's that's as far as you're going to go. Kind of a thing. And she may not have said it exactly like that, but it was something along those lines. And it was the first time that I felt reprieve in the fact that I wasn't responsible solely and failing miserably at this grounding thing. And so I just really appreciated that comment. And it was the first time ever that I felt like somebody understood what was going on in my body and how I was struggling to ground. And then after I had some somatic therapy, that really helped a lot with my grounding. And then, of course, my energetic training and ongoing work with that has really helped a lot. But it's still a daily task for me to really focus on not spending too much time in the spiritual and energetic and really balancing the both sides of it in my life so that I can stay embodied and balanced. And some days that doesn't happen and some days it does. But it's good to have, sort of this list of tools that you can pull upon that work for you. If you don't like the smell of essential oil, then that wouldn't be on the tool list. And so you find out what works for me. And then another aspect I think of grounding is being connected to your higher self and also dropping your grounding cord into the core of the earth. So it's kind of like you're this energetic antenna and you're connected spiritually to your higher self and you're connected to the earth as well because you're on the physical plane. And so when you ask your higher self to strengthen the connection to you and you imagine your spine kind of dropping down to the core of the earth and anchoring into the earth with the intention that you're drawing upon that earth energy to fill yourself, and also with the intention that your higher self is connecting into your heart, and that's the spiritual blissful aspect of you that knows everything about your birth plan and your soul plan, and you ask them to work together and you be the middle world, you be the one in the middle of that, then they intersect at your heart and you have this really grounded experience. And so it's intention and awareness and activation, but also just understanding how energy flows and what your energetic atmosphere is like and how to work with the energies around you. With all of that being said, what are some things that you can do to cleanse your energy field daily of just all of the thoughts and the feelings and the imprints and the stuff that's ready to kind of go each day? And this can be done. I like to do it when I wake up in the morning, when I'm doing my teeth brushing and getting dressed. I like to have a routine there. And then I like to do it right before I go to bed. And then as an energetic healing practitioner, I will do this, before and after each of my clients as a way to set sacred space. So I think about this as setting my own sacred space for myself. And then when I'm working with clients, I'm setting additional sacred space that's separate and outside of myself, even though we're working together. So it's like a layering effect. And this can be as simple or as extensive as you like. It's completely up to you what resonates with you, what practices you already have, and all of that. Some very simple ways to clear your energy field would be to work with sound. Number one is pretty simple, and all it requires is you clapping your hands around your body and making noise with the intention that you're breaking up energy and releasing energy. And what I see missing in this kind of a practice a lot of times is once you break up the energy, it kind of is like hanging out on the floor or kind of hanging out around you. And it's not really directed to go anywhere. So you're either going to pick it right back up or someone else is going to pick it up that's in your space. And so one way that we can be really energetically responsible for when we do clear our own energy is that we actually direct that energy to go back into the earth and to be recycled. And so it's just an intention. I just ask for that energy to return back into the earth. And if you're a practitioner and you have, additional training, then you can ask for, other spiritual helpers on your team to remove that energy. But very simple. You can use your hands and just clap. You can use a rattle. You can work with a chime. You can work with a drum. You can work with any form of sound whatsoever with the intention that you're releasing that energy that you no longer need and recycling it back into the earth. You can also use your voice. That's a great way, just some vocal toning or just going up and down your spine with your intention as you're, going from a low note to a high note or a high note to a low note. You don't need to know how to sing. You're simply just making noise to get the energy moving, that vibration on your spine when you are chanting or when you're singing or anytime you're using your voice is actually moving energy. The other thing that I love working with is spray, energetic sprays, waters, oils, things like that. And so I actually, for a long time, had my own energetic spray that I created at home. Recently, I put that in my shop on charlenewindes.com if you want to check it out. But it's an energy spray, and there's a lot of people that make these everywhere, and they're all a little bit different. And you can also make it yourself. It's not a difficult thing to make, but I do have it available, and it is one of my favorite things because I'm such an olfactory person. The smell ignites the action in me. But what we're working with when we're working with the water in an energetic spray is we're working with the spirit of the water. We're not just spraying a spray. And if you're just spraying the spray and you're not connecting to the spiritual and energetic properties of what is in the spray, then you're not really accessing that spiritual clearing. You're just kind of spraying something around. And you might get like a little bit of cleansing just simply from that action. But what you want to do is you want to connect with the spirit of the water, with reverence and with respect and with honor and with permission and request, and say, as you're spraying this spray, connect to that spiritual energy and say, will you help me? Will you cleanse and clear my energy of anything that is not the highest good? It's sort of a back and forth. And then if there's anything else in the spray bottle, like particular plants from essential oils or hydrosols, things like that, you also want to connect to the energy and the spirit of the plant that's in there. There's a spirit in every tree and every plant that we have. And do the same thing that you did with the water spirit. Sometimes there's a crystal in the spray, a charged or blessed crystal, which I do put in my sprays. Then you're also working with the crystal energy. So there's multiple layers of spiritual and energetic energies that are in these sprays. I also charge the spring water in my sprays, or the distilled water that I put in my sprays, I charge it under the moon. So there's also the energy of the moon. There's lunar energy. While you're spraying this spray, and I generally just spray it around the crown and the top of my head, and I imagine that it's washing down into my whole entire field, but you can spray it wherever. You can spray your pillow or your bed or your space, anything really. And you're connecting and requesting and inviting and asking and working in reverence with the spiritual energy of the water and of the plants and of the crystals and things like that. And that's a very quick and easy way to, tend to your energy field. Another thing that I like to use is smoke. I absolutely love smoke, incense, resins, dried herbs, all of it. And I realized why I connect so much with that. And for me, it's extremely grounding. When I smell smoke, again, because I'm such an olfactory person, smoke for me is an immediate ground. It's like the earth energy is right here with me from wherever that plant or tree or, whatever that is that I'm working with. I'm immediately with that energy. And so it's instantly grounding. And so again, if you're just burning herbs, you're just burning herbs, right? But what makes it different and what makes it more effective is that you're working with the spirit of whatever it is that you're burning. And so you're asking permission, you're honoring, you're working together out of reverence and out of respect, and you're developing a relationship with whatever that is. From my background, in the Celtic background of spirituality, it's a creative process for us. And so you can work with anything that resonates with you, and also take a look at like what grows indigenous to, the area that your ancestors are from or that you're from. For me, working with rosemary or lavender or mugwort, I can work with any of those herbs and have the creative intention that I'm asking for cleansing and clearing in my field. What's interesting is that there are secondary properties to herbs that are not primarily worked with for clearing work. So if you're working with, say, lavender, it can do the clearing with you with your intention, but it's also going to bring a peaceful and soothing energy into your field because that is the property of lavender. If you're working with rosemary, it's going to bring clarity and focus because those are the properties of the plant. If you're working with mugwort, you're going to have, a dreamy sort of feeling, and you're going to tap into sort of that dreamland state because those are the properties of mugwort. So just keeping that in mind, that whatever it is that you are working with, you're also working with that secondary energy if you are cleansing and clearing. But maybe you have an herb or a practice that's already resonant with your heritage, and maybe that really works well for you. And then I like to do a smoke bath. So once I've activated that spiritual, I'll pull that smoke over my head, over my crown. I'll pull it into my heart and into my throat and into my ears. And I'll even get, the bottom of my feet. And I'll be very intentional about how I'm working with that. And that is one way that you can sort of cleanse the atmosphere of your energy field. Another way is to simply go outside and lay on the earth, or to pick up a rock from the earth and just ask the rock or the earth to draw the energy out of you that's no longer serving you, And I've had many spiritual teachers and mentors that have told me that that is food, that is recycled food for the earth. So not to feel bad or guilty about, asking the earth or a rock to take off the energy that you no longer need, that it actually gets recycled in as food, like compost into the earth. And so just asking that one question to the rock or just laying on the earth feels amazing. You can also go out under the sun and just ask the sun to cleanse and clear you of anything that is not the highest good and have that be returned as well. And one of my favorite practices that I learned from one of my teachers was simply to just dismiss energy. Simply just say out loud and see how it feels. I dismiss all energy that's not mine. Period. I dismiss it. And then just notice how it feels in your atmosphere. I dismiss all energy that's not my highest good. Dismiss, dismiss, dismiss. It's one of my favorite things to do. And then there's even things like you can drink tea that's clearing, like rosemary tea or sage tea. There's ways that we can clear our energy field, so many ways. But what's important is your intention with the action and your relationship to what you're doing, not just wafting around smoke or spraying spray or being fast and fastidious, making it a procedure, right? It's about it becoming a ritual, a cleansing and nourishing ritual, and something that engages all of your senses every time, and a way to access spiritual support through the ritual that helps you clear your energy field. And then once a week, I like to just do a really big energy clearing. And so, you decide at what level you want to do that. And once a week, I'll have a ritual bath with lots of salt, or a salt scrub in the shower if you don't do baths or don't have a bathtub. And again, I'm working with the intention with the salt, and I'll add other things into the bath that are resonating with me at that time. But I'll have, a layered practice on the weekend of really kind of in-depth working with my energy field. And so let's talk about protection again and what we can do to protect ourselves. So once you've cleared your field, you want to fill your field up. You want to fill up your atmosphere and take up your space. So you want to expand into your energy field with the intention of what you want to have in that field. And this can get kind of tricky depending on what your job is, what environment you're in, your beliefs, your spirituality, your culture, your tradition. All of this can get very, very layered. So I'll just talk about some universal ways to do protection. So some universal ways that we can protect is first and foremost with our intention, and also engage in our personal power. Do not lend your power to other people, places, or things. Always stay in your own power and understand your own energetic space and work with your intention around that, and boundaries. Boundaries are probably the number one way that you can protect. And so boundaries are saying no when you mean no, saying yes when you mean yes, being very authentic and clear in your communication, letting everyone know what your expectations are, or maybe not what your expectations are, but letting everyone know where you're at, what your limits are, what you're tolerating. And so it comes down to, I'm going to go to bed at this time every night, no matter what. And I'm not going to let anything else deter me from that, right? Because that's how you stay healthy or whatever. I'm going to be very clear what is involved in our friendship. Right? There needs to be reciprocity, and there needs to be responsibility for each other's own feelings and each other's own energy, and just being really clear with your relationships, your friendships, your family, with your job, really taking a good look at where you can engage these boundaries and where they're lacking. And this is a constant work in progress, and I feel like is a forever situation, especially with these empaths like myself, who are also harmonizers and people pleasers due to traumatic childhoods, and also just want everyone to be happy all the time, which is totally bypassing the fact that we have way more emotions than just happiness. And so there's a lot to analyze in yourself around boundaries and why they're not there, and what is there and what is working and what needs more work, and just recognizing that, hey, this is a lifetime process. It's day by day, one thing at a time. And then accessing that spiritual support. So this is the other area where we can really protect. So one universal thing that we can access is the rainbow, the sun, trees, and crystal energy. And these things are all accessible energetically. They don't have to have any physical representations of them to access them spiritually and energetically. And so when I think about the rainbow and all the colors in the rainbow, I can, go on a meditation or go on a journey and just have a conversation with the rainbow and say, hey, would you be willing to work with me and protect me and shield me from anything that is not my highest good? And you invite that rainbow into your heart and you imagine that rainbow emanating from the inside out of your heart, surrounding your body, and that you have all of these colors as shields of defense from anything that's not the highest good, because again, we want all the good stuff. And you just constantly check in with the spirit of that energy, that rainbow, and just make sure every day that you're making that invitation known again. And then having a back and forth relationship. Again, this is a back and forth thing. And so it's like anytime you see a rainbow, honoring that rainbow, being present with that rainbow, maybe giving offerings, whatever feels good to you, but really recognizing that this is a rapport and a relationship that needs tended to rather than just something that you draw on all the time. Same with the sun. You can invite the sun into your heart and imagine that you have this like glimmering, heat and light around you, that everything sort of purifies and does not get into your field because it acts like a filter. Trees are a great way to access support and begin asking, permission of a particular tree that you resonate with, to work with you for protection and grounding, and visualizing yourself, sort of connecting with the tree or the tree growing from the inside out. And again, surrounding you and surrounding your body and your energy. And if you're working with crystals, black obsidian is one of my favorites to do with this because it is known for spiritual protection. You can ask the black obsidian or imagine the crystal, in your heart and emanating from the inside out. You can ask your spirit guides or your allies. You can talk to your ancestors or angels. You can ask all of these things to be with you, to walk with you, and to provide that spiritual support. And then, of course, there's tools and things that can be enchanted and embedded and blessed and things like that. And those do have power and they can be powerful and be very helpful. But I also don't think personally, I think that we can do this internally and that those tools are there as a reminder and a physical representation of accessing that spiritual energy, like a necklace or an amulet or a medicine bag and things like that. And then there's altars and things like that for practitioners. And I want to talk about like cleansing and protecting the home the same way that we're talking about the energetic atmosphere, but I'll save that for another episode. But that's the general thought process or practice around energy hygiene, is that we're clearing our field with something daily with our intention and our activation with that relationship to whatever it is we're working with. And that we're grounding and really focusing on, the ways that we can ground our energy, and that we're protecting in some way or having that intention and developing that relationship with how to protect ourselves. And the other aspects of this are getting to know your energy field, getting to know where you're spiritually anchoring, reconnecting with your ancestry and the practices that fall in alignment with that, and understanding universal ways to access energy and protection and grounding and clearing work, and just building this practice. What feels good to you? If I had to do all of this just because it was a job, I wouldn't like it. A lot of these things made me feel better when I engaged them, and that's what motivated me to want to continue doing that work. Or a lot of this made me want to be more embodied and understand myself more and deepen my awareness. And so you do what works for you and what resonates with you. And I hope that this episode today helped you a little bit, gave you an idea about your energy field. And if you already knew about that, then deepening that awareness for you. I really enjoyed sharing all of this with you today on the podcast, and I look forward to many more episodes. Thank you for listening to the Flowering Daydream podcast, where daydreams become reality. I'm your host, Charlene Windis, and you can find all of my energy clearing support tools in my shop at charlenewindis.com. The energy healing meditations on Insight Timer, which is a free meditation app, and also online intuitive development learning classes on Udemy. And be sure to subscribe and rate and review the podcast.